Welcome, age of vintage society. Comedy is love, but she's my life, and a man can sacrifice his love to live a happy life. Yes, he confessed his feelings for Gracie Allen in front of all and said, "Love is eternal. The aspect may change, but not the essence." Well, he is best remembered for his comedy, films, and appealing acting, but all of the above, his devotion to love made him more famous. From his early days as a vaudeville entertainer to his later years as a Hollywood star, he was a passionate believer in the power of love. So guys, let's discover the life of George Burns, the real-life Romeo who accidentally found his Juliet. What made George Burns and Gracie Allen's love story so special? Standing at 5 feet 9 inches tall, George had a slim build, a round baby face, a bald head, and a pencil-thin moustache. His eyes were an inviting blue, and his expression was always one of wry amusement. It feels like he was a wrestler more than an actor, as once an interview asked George, "Are you thinking about pursuing a wrestling career?" To which he replied, "Everything is fair in love and war, my boy. Maybe I will join wrestling if I fail to get my love." In addition to his looks, he had a unique sense of humour, which he used to great effect in his performances. George was a master of comic timing and delivery. His repertoire of jokes, one-liners, and stories were often recycled from his many vaudeville acts, but he always managed to make them seem fresh. He was also known for his improvisational skills and ability to ad-lib easily. His charming wit was beloved by audiences of all ages, and that's why he was named one of the most renowned showmen of all time. He was a prolific author, having written several books and hundreds of songs. Well, it's better to call him all-rounder, as he was also a talented musician and singer known for his ability to play numerous instruments, including the banjo, guitar, and piano. Well, not only was he a talented actor and comedian, but he was also a master of the art of showmanship. He instantly made a name for himself as a master of comedic timing and sharp wit, and often used self-deprecating humour to make his audience laugh out loud. In fact, throughout his career, George starred in many successful films and television shows, and became one of the most prominent figures in the show business world during the golden age of Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s. He was best known for his comedic roles in films such as The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, and films like Going My Way. He mentored many aspiring actors, and was always willing to lend a helping hand to those in need, because the helping nature was in his blood, as he was always a worry-about-others boy who thinks of others before himself. Yes, you heard it right. George was the child who would sacrifice his favourite toy for others, and it was not his fault, as George was born in New York, a city rich in humanity, on January 20th, 1896. He was the 9th of 12 children born to immigrant parents who had fled persecution in their native Poland. Growing up in poverty on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, George and his siblings were raised in a loving and supportive family environment. At 7, George began to make money by singing on the streets and entertaining passers-by with show tunes and Yiddish songs. His childhood was spent performing in various small venues, such as saloons and burlesque theatres. At the age of 16, George was already making a living as a comedian, performing with a partner in a vaudeville act. The duo eventually became known as the Burns and Allen Act, and the two toured the vaudeville circuit for nearly a decade. During this time, George developed a unique style of humour that revolved around his natural wit and sharp observations. And in 1925, George and Allen transitioned to the radio, and their show became a national sensation, where George was the star of the show and became famous for his clever one-liners and quirky characters. His trademark cigar and catchphrase, "Say goodnight, Gracie," quickly became iconic and gained him overnight fame. And it was the time when George realized that his dream of becoming an actor was just about to begin, as after graduating high school, George moved to New York's Lower East Side, where he got his start in show business to better understand the acting logic. After a short period of hard work and determination, George became part of a comedy act known as the Four Pals, and then renamed as the Eight Pals. During this time he began to develop the persona of George Burns, a wise-cracking, cigar-smoking vaudevillian. He also started a partnership with the singer and dancer Gracie Allen. Well, it may feel like Allen was proven to be a sign of good luck for George, as just after his partnership with Allen, George and Allen's career took a crazy ride of fame, and they began to tour and perform in vaudeville shows. They soon gained a reputation as talented and funny acts, and were eventually signed to a major vaudeville agency. Their act included a unique combination of song and dance, clever wordplay, and their signature slow burn delivery style. And in the late 1920s, George and Allen began to make their mark in radio, appearing as regulars on the popular show The Guy Lombardo Show. They also started their show, The Burns and Allen Show, which ran for over 20 years, and made them into household names. In the 1930s, they transitioned to film, with George appearing in several successful movies, such as The Big Broadcast and The Big Broadcast of 1938. By the 1940s, George and Allen had become one of America's most popular comedy teams, but no one knew this successful team would find their soulmates in each other, as both of them shocked everyone by roaming the streets with a splash of love in the air. And yes, we cannot deny that George Burns and Gracie Allen's romantic love story is one of Hollywood's most legendary love tales. Despite the age difference, a working relationship that blossomed into a romantic one, and a long career that kept them apart for extended periods, the couple's deep and abiding love and devotion to one another was apparent to everyone who knew them. Their relationship quickly blossomed, and their chemistry was evident on stage. The pair decided to form a double act, with George as the straight man and Allen as the comic foil. The act was an instant hit, and it wasn't long before George and Allen were married. Throughout their career, Allen was George's equal as a comedian. She was a brilliant and quick-witted comic who could hold her own in a room full of comedians. George often said that Allen was the funnier of the two, and he was proud of her accomplishments. Even though their careers kept them apart for extended periods, George and Allen's love never wavered. They wrote to each other every day when they were apart, and when they were together they were inseparable. They had an extraordinary connection that was evident to everyone who knew them. In spite of their long and successful careers, George and Allen's love story was always their greatest success. They were the epitome of a power couple in Hollywood, and their partnership spanned an incredible 62 years. George was a comedian and Allen was a dancer in the show. Their act was a huge hit, and their popularity snowballed. They billed themselves as Burns and Allen, and soon appeared in several Broadway shows. In 1932 they made their debut in the movies with the release of The Big Broadcast. They went on to star in a total of 17 movies together, including the classic A Night at the Movies. George and Allen not only achieved success on stage, screen, radio and television, but also in their personal lives, as the lovebirds finally got married in 1926 and remained happily married until Allen died. They had one daughter, Sandra, and an adopted son, Ronnie. George and Allen were among the most beloved couples in the entertainment industry. The two had an undeniable spark, and it wasn't long before they fell in love with each other. Their love story began in 1922 when George and Allen first met while performing a vaudeville act together. George was immediately smitten with Allen, who was 3 years his junior, and soon invited her to join him in his act. Allen, who was from a conservative Irish Catholic family, was initially hesitant, but George's persistence and charm won her over, and the couple became a fairy tale couple. As they toured together, they developed a strong bond and began to develop a close romantic relationship. It wasn't until a few years later that George, a confirmed bachelor, finally opened his heart and proposed to Allen. After months of courting and gentle persuasion, Allen finally accepted George's proposal, and the two were married in 1926. George won Allen's heart with his charm and wit, as well as his patience and understanding. He genuinely appreciated Allen's unique personality and style, and always was there for her, no matter what. Allen was also deeply touched by George's devotion to her, and she saw in him a true companion for life. George and Alan had an undeniable bond that showed in their performances. Their comedy routine was a perfect blend of physical comedy and witty banter, and audiences were enthralled. The duo quickly became one of the most popular acts in show business. Above all else, their love was evident in their performances. It was clear that they truly loved each other and were meant to be together. Well, where everyone was wondering it was just a few weeks' couple, George and Alan proved everyone wrong by spending 38 years of love together and made everyone question the secret behind their successful marriage. Well, to be honest, the secret to the success of their marriage was their unwavering loyalty. Even though they were in the public eye and had successful careers, George and Alan always put their relationship first. They had a strong commitment to each other and their relationship. The couple frequently said their relationship was built on mutual respect and shared interests. They both had a great sense of humour and were passionate about their craft. They were also great friends and both had a strong sense of commitment to the other. George and Alan also had a unique way of expressing their love for each other. While on stage they often shared a special look that conveyed their emotions. They often said that they could reach each other's minds and knew what the other was thinking. The couple also had an unbreakable bond of trust. Even though they were often in the public eye, George and Alan always kept their private life between the two of them. They never shared details of their marriage with anyone and kept their secrets close to their hearts. The couple's loyalty was also evident in their willingness to stick together through thick and thin. When times were tough, they were always there for each other and never gave up. This unwavering loyalty kept their marriage strong for decades. Well, not only do they live a happy love life together, but what made George and Alan so successful was their ability to balance their professional and private lives. On the one hand, they were always business-minded and professional in approaching their work. They developed a signature comedic style and always delivered top-notch performances. On the other hand, they were always a loving couple and devoted their time to each other and their children. George and Alan were able to handle both aspects of their life in part because of their strong sense of communication. They were open and honest and discussed their relationship issues before they became too big. They also respected each other's talents and opinions, allowing them to collaborate on projects and create something unique. Overall, George Burns and Gracie Allen maintained a successful relationship and career because they understood the importance of balance. They could separate their work and private lives while maintaining mutual respect and communication. Not only was their love story based on respect and understanding, but it was filled with laughter too. Their devotion to each other was evident despite the occasional marital argument. Throughout their marriage, George and Alan remained devoted to each other. They had a playful, teasing relationship and often joked about their age difference. They were also known for their ability to laugh off any marital problems. In fact, when asked about the secret to their long and successful marriage, George responded, "We were never jealous of each other." The couple also showed their love for each other through their work. George often wrote roles specifically for Alan and frequently featured her as the star of their shows. In addition, George often showed his admiration for his wife on stage and off, saying, "I owe everything I have to Alan. She was the star of the show." They may have had their moments of disagreement, but in the end their deep devotion to each other endured, and we can't deny that most of the credit for this, just like Friends, relationship goes to George, as he was a man with a pure heart. He was not only successful in a relationship, but throughout his life. George Burns was an inspiration to many. He was known for his positive attitude and his ability to overcome obstacles. But unluckily, the man who skipped every hurdle with a smile on his face failed to skip the deadliest disease, as in 1933 he was diagnosed with a fatal lung disease, but refused to give up. He kept performing, travelling and entertaining people until death chased him, and finally the star of our hearts died in 1996 at the age of 100. His final words summed up his life perfectly. "I wish I was feeling better, but I'm feeling wonderful." George Burns and Gracie Allen's love was lucky because they had no secrets. But Kim Novak had to hide her interest of love. Let's check out this video.